Beloved soul, there are no coincidences, and I want you to hear this gently but clearly. If you are listening to these words right now, at this precise moment in your life, it is not by chance, not by algorithm, not by idle curiosity. Heaven arranged this intersection. Something unseen has shifted, and your spirit was guided here because it is ready to recognize it. While you're hearing this, your name is being carried in conversations you cannot hear, in places you have never entered, and yet you are present there all the same. The invisible realm is active right now, rearranging outcomes, loosening what once felt sealed, and exposing what was hidden too long. What you sensed in your quiet moments was real. What felt like pressure, delay, or silence was not abandonment, it was preparation. There is movement behind the veil, and not everyone involved is at peace about it. Some are realizing that what they relied on for control is no longer holding. Some are feeling a sudden urgency they can't explain. You don't need to know the details yet. You're not meant to see the full picture all at once. What matters is this: you were not overlooked, you were not forgotten, and you were never powerless. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. The scripture whispers, not as instruction, but as reassurance, a reminder that timing is intentional and knowing comes before revealing. Right now, something important is being brought into alignment, and your awareness is part of that alignment. You may not understand why this message found you today, but your soul does. Stay with that knowing. Let it settle. Let it steady you. This is not fear. This is recognition. Before we go any further, I want you to do something intentional. Activate your faith right now. Declare it, not quietly, not in your thoughts, but openly. Type these 4 words in the comments. I am ready now. When you declare it, you align yourself with what has already been prepared for you. Heaven responds to willingness. The moment you say yes, the door opens. This is reaching you now because you've lived through the kind of quiet pressure that reshapes a soul. You've carried financial strain without complaint, stretched what little you had, and still found ways to give, to show up, to believe. You've wondered how long a good heart is expected to wait while others seem to move ahead without consequence. You've felt overlooked, not just by people, but by life itself. And yet, something in you refused to harden. You trusted there was order beyond what you could see, that angels do not miss details, that nothing offered in sincerity ever disappears. Stay with me for a moment. What you've endured was not meaningless delay. It was refinement. You were being strengthened to witness truth without shattering, to receive clarity without losing compassion. There is a reason the veil is thinning now. The unseen realm has already initiated a correction, and you're being drawn into awareness because your spirit can hold it. Here's the key. What was built against you could only stand as long as it remained hidden, and what sustained it was never solid to begin with. You may have sensed this when things didn't add up, when promises felt hollow, when doors closed without explanation. Those impressions were not imagination. They were discernment, awakening. There has been a transfer in motion, not as a sudden miracle dropped from the sky, but as the natural consequence of seeds you planted long ago, in faith, integrity, and restraint. Scripture once spoke of a time when what is done in secret is brought into the light, not to shame the innocent, but to restore what was diverted. You are not being rewarded for perfection, but for perseverance. While you labored and wondered why there was never quite enough, provision connected to your name was delayed, misdirected, withheld through systems that benefited from your silence. This goes beyond a single face or moment. It is layered, coordinated, and now unraveling. You don't need to chase the truth or confront anyone. What is shifting does not require your defense. It requires your readiness. The same intuition that kept you gentle in hardship is about to be affirmed in ways that steady your footing and expand your capacity to receive. Justice, when it arrives through divine order, does not rush, but it does not miss. What is aligning now is precise, intentional, and already underway, and you are closer than you realize to understanding how deeply you were seen all along. There has been a focused force behind much of what tried to stall you, a single source of distortion whose influence wove through years of misdirection, half-truths, and quiet interference. You didn't imagine it. When the threads are followed honestly, they lead back to one presence, one energy that fed on confusion and control, someone who made deception their language and relied on others, never questioning it. Now listen carefully. What sustained them is failing. The image they crafted is cracking, and the stories they told about you are losing their grip because truth carries its own weight. People who once accepted the narrative without pause are beginning to notice the inconsistencies, the gaps, the way things never quite added up. The same tactics that worked before no longer land, and that loss of control has shaken them deeply. There is a reason this opposition felt so personal. In spiritual lore, what challenges you most often reflects a path you consciously refused to take. This presence embodied a shadow you chose not to become, a version shaped by fear instead of integrity, and that contrast made you a threat. They studied you closely, watched for moments of openness, and attempted to disrupt every threshold where progress was near, believing strategy alone could override destiny. But exposure does not require force. It arrives when alignment is complete. What is unfolding now is not revenge, but consequence, the natural unraveling of something built on falsehood. In Scripture, the fall of hidden schemes often comes not through accusation, but through light, when what was concealed can no longer survive being seen. The humiliation approaching them is not loud, but it is undeniable, and it comes from the very actions they assumed would remain invisible. Your role in this is not confrontation or defense. It is steadiness. You are standing on solid ground because you chose clarity over cunning, patience over power plays. What is collapsing was never yours to carry, and as it does, the space around you is being cleared for something truer, something long delayed, and very close to being revealed. Before we continue, if this message has touched your spirit, take a moment to like this video and stay connected by subscribing. This is a space for those learning to trust divine timing and walk in faith. If you feel aligned, comment, "I receive," and take a deep breath, because what comes next is speaking directly to the season your soul is entering now. There is another layer to what you've been sensing, and it explains why the weight felt heavier than a single conflict ever should. What you were facing was coordinated, shared, reinforced by an alliance that fed on secrecy and mutual reinforcement, two lives intertwined around control and image, moving in tandem to limit you from different angles. You felt it as pressure in multiple areas at once, finances tightening while your name felt subtly questioned, opportunities stalling while whispers traveled ahead of you. That kind of strain doesn't come from coincidence. It comes from intention. Hold this gently. These were not small missteps or isolated betrayals. They were calculated distortions, one energy working quietly through money and access, the other through perception and narrative, each reinforcing the other so that confusion would surround you from every side. And yet, even under that weight, you stayed intact. You kept choosing decency. You kept showing restraint. You kept trusting that something higher was watching when no one else seemed to be. That trust was not naive. It was alignment. This is the turning point. What binds people together in deception eventually becomes the very structure that exposes them. The images they curated, the respect they demanded, the authority they assumed were all built on fabrication, and fabrication always collapses inward. There are depths to their actions that go beyond loss of money or reputation, choices so misaligned with life itself that they carry their own consequences without anyone needing to intervene. You are not dealing with ordinary dishonesty, but with a hunger for power that devours even what should have been sacred. And still, that darkness does not touch you. What is happening now is not an attack, but an unveiling. Evidence surfaces. Stories unravel. People who once accepted words at face value begin to feel the dissonance, to recognize that what sounded convincing never felt true. Even those who defended them are starting to question what they overlooked. In ancient accounts, it was often pride that sealed the fate of those who believed themselves untouchable, not because judgment was rushed, but because truth waits patiently until arrogance removes its own cover. You were targeted because your presence threatened the lie, because your integrity exposed what they worked so hard to disguise. The sorrow and heaviness you carried were not signs of weakness, but proof that you were absorbing pressure meant to break you, and you did not break. Every seed you planted in silence has been counted. Every tear, every delay, every moment you chose light over retaliation has already shifted the unseen terrain. What expires now is not your hope, but their story. And what comes next for you will make sense of why you had to survive this chapter before the next one could be revealed. There is a truth surfacing now that may feel tender, even unsettling, because it reaches back to the place where your earliest understanding of yourself was formed. You have lived with an invisible weight, struggling with money, second-guessing your worth, wondering why you could believe in angels and divine order, yet still feel blocked right before things were meant to open. You told yourself it was just fear, just timing, just something you needed to work harder to overcome. But what if those inner restraints were never truly yours? Let your spirit settle here. Some of the most persistent resistance you've carried did not begin in adulthood and did not originate in your own mind. It was shaped early, planted quietly by someone who held authority in your life, someone whose role should have been protection, but instead became influence. That inner voice that interrupts your confidence, the reflex to retreat just before progress, the sense that peace is for others but not for you, those patterns were learned, not innate. You were not born doubting yourself. You were conditioned into it. This does not mean you were weak or unaware. It means you survived an environment where love was inconsistent and control disguised itself as guidance. In many sacred stories, Lineage is not defined by blood alone, but by alignment. And even scripture reminds us that inheritance can be spiritual as much as biological. Titles do not guarantee safety. Sometimes the deepest sabotage comes from those closest, not out of hatred, but out of their own unresolved need for dominance. The chaos you grew up navigating was not accidental. It kept attention scattered and authority unchallenged. And now, your steadiness unsettles that structure. Your healing threatens an old narrative. Your growth exposes a long-held belief that you were meant to remain dependent, diminished, endlessly striving but never arriving. The very discomfort you feel as these realizations surface is evidence that the programming is loosening. You are beginning to see the cage because the door is already open. The beliefs that once felt automatic are losing their authority because your soul has outgrown them. You are not betraying anyone by becoming whole. You are simply returning to what was always intended. The seeds you planted through endurance, kindness, and restraint were not wasted during those years of confusion. They were working beneath the surface, preparing you for the moment when clarity would arrive without crushing you. This is not about blame. It is about release. What was installed can be uninstalled. What was learned can be unlearned. And what was delayed is now aligning, not as punishment for those who shaped your doubt, but as restoration for the one who carried it and still chose to believe there was more. As clarity arrives and justice begins to move, there is a quiet instruction being impressed upon your spirit, one born from wisdom rather than fear. What you endured was not ordinary hardship, not random family dysfunction, not a series of unlucky events. It was sustained pressure designed to keep you disconnected from who you truly are, to make you doubt your worth, your perceptions, and your right to peace. From a very young age, forces close to you worked to confuse you, to convince you that your pain was self-inflicted and your limitations were proof of failure, when in truth they were responses to prolonged spiritual opposition. You are recognizing the tactics now, the subtle distortions, the isolation that made you feel unseen, the quiet manipulations that encouraged you to turn inward against yourself. Let me show you how. Every season where you questioned your sanity or nearly gave up was not evidence of weakness, but evidence of how much pressure you were absorbing without losing your core. There were times when it looked like they succeeded, when exhaustion made you retreat, when hope felt too expensive to hold on to, and yet something in you never fully disconnected. That persistence did not come from willpower alone. While others were strategizing in secrecy, something greater was reinforcing you from the unseen, teaching you discernment through betrayal, resilience through isolation, and spiritual authority through endurance. You were never alone in this, even when it felt that way. Those who opposed you underestimated the depth of what you carry because they judged by appearances, by temporary circumstances, by moments when you were struggling to stay afloat. They mistook humility for weakness and kindness for lack of power. They never considered that the intensity of the opposition itself was a reflection of your significance, because ordinary lives do not require this level of interference. In sacred tradition, those entrusted with great purpose are often pressed hardest before understanding why. Your strength has always come from a source that cannot be taken, a divine connection that sustained you until you were ready to recognize the scope of what you survived. As justice unfolds, Your task is not to reopen doors or revisit old dynamics, but to protect the peace you've earned. The seeds you planted in faith, restraint, and quiet perseverance have already shifted the unseen landscape, and what comes next will confirm that your survival was not accidental, but preparatory. You are standing at a moment where truth has gathered enough weight to surface on its own, and you can feel it because the pressure you carried for so long is finally lifting. You've known what it's like to struggle quietly, to stretch finances, to carry blame that never belonged to you, to believe in divine order while wondering why justice felt delayed. Now the fog is thinning. The path of evidence is no longer fragmented, and what was once whispered is being spoken aloud by voices you didn't recruit and couldn't control. Stay with me for a moment. What they meant to use to erase you has instead refined you. Each attempt to undermine your name trained you to recognize truth without hesitation. Each season of isolation deepened your connection to what sustains you beyond people and systems. Each effort to confuse you sharpened your discernment until clarity became instinct. This is the turning point. A spiritual law has activated that does not simply stop harm, but reverses its direction, transforming pressure into purpose and resistance into elevation. In sacred tradition, there are moments when protection is not abstract but assigned, when help is not symbolic but present, and this is one of those moments. You are not walking through this exposure unguarded. There is a covering around your life now that operates beyond human strategy, shielding not only your body, but your thoughts, your perception, and your future. What once reached you no longer can. The manipulation that drained you finds no entry. The words spoken against you carry no authority. The plans formed in secrecy dissolve before they take shape. Take this in. You are witnessing divine justice, not as spectacle, but as precision, moving quietly and decisively, unaffected by corruption or delay. The seeds you planted through patience, integrity, and faith during seasons when nothing seemed to move have matured into a strength that cannot be negotiated with or taken from you. Those who see you now may mistake your calm for naivety, but it is certainty. You know the outcome because it has already been settled in the unseen. You are protected in ways your opposition cannot calculate, supported by forces they do not recognize, and carried forward by a purpose that makes interference impossible. They may still look in your direction, but they cannot reach you, and what unfolds next will confirm that what survived this much pressure was never meant to be broken. What is unfolding now carries a weight that feels different, deeper, because it is not rushed and it cannot be negotiated. Divine justice has already begun to move, and it operates with a precision no human system can replicate, reaching into places evidence never touched and motives were never confessed. What was hidden is surfacing. What was taken is being accounted for. What was distorted is being corrected in ways that restore not only resources, but dignity and truth. Those who opposed you understood something about you long before you did, that your strength was never meant to function in isolation, and that once you aligned fully with your divine design, the balance would shift beyond their control. This is not about spectacle or punishment, but about completion. Justice here is layered, addressing actions, intentions, and the unseen damage done to your path. That is why it feels thorough, almost overwhelming, because it touches every level of your life at once. You are beginning to see how relationships were disrupted, how support was blocked, how connection itself was treated as a threat. All because unity at the right frequency multiplies power in ways darkness cannot tolerate. In sacred tradition, it is written that a cord of many strands is not easily broken, and that truth echoes here as recognition rather than instruction. Take this in. The delays you endured were not proof of abandonment, but protection, buying time until justice could move without endangering you. Even now, wisdom is required alongside victory. Boundaries are not fear, they are discernment in action. As consequences arrive, desperation rises, and those who have never been held accountable often react unpredictably when control slips away. You already know this. You've seen how rage surfaces when limits are enforced, how boundaries were treated as threats. This is why you are guided to remain alert, grounded, and protected, celebrating quietly, without reopening doors that were closed for your safety. Divine protection and practical awareness are working together now, one reinforcing the other. Justice is not weakening you or exposing you, it is stabilizing you. You are not being asked to prove anything, chase validation, or engage the collapse of others. Your role is to stay aligned, stay clear, and stay safe as the scales finish balancing. What is happening cannot be stopped, bought off, or redirected. The vindication coming to you is complete, public and personal, and it will unfold in a way that confirms you were never wrong. To believe that goodness, though patient, is never powerless. There is a quiet reassurance surrounding you now, one that speaks to safety, belonging, and being finally backed in ways you once prayed for in silence. You've known what it's like to feel exposed, unsupported, and emotionally alone, carrying more than anyone realized. Let your spirit settle here. What is changing is not just circumstance, but structure. Support is forming around you on multiple levels, both seen and unseen, as people with integrity and discernment are drawn into your life at exactly the right moment, not to control you, but to stand with you. This is not accidental. It reflects a shift from surviving on instinct to moving within alignment. Now listen carefully. You are no longer operating from a place of scarcity where every choice felt like a risk or a compromise. Where once there were no safe options, there are now real ones, meaningful ones, inviting you to choose freely rather than react defensively. Doors that were sealed through interference are loosening simultaneously, and opportunities once blocked are resurfacing with clarity and momentum. This does not come from striving harder, but from seeds you planted long ago through endurance, integrity, and restraint during seasons when no one was applauding you. In sacred story, restoration often follows prolonged delay, not as repayment alone, but as multiplication, because what is returned carries the weight of everything learned along the way. Take this in. You are stepping out of survival mode and into discernment, where decisions are guided by peace rather than urgency, and love replaces vigilance as your baseline. The connections forming now are different, grounded in truth rather than control, and whether through reconciliation or new alignment, they reflect a higher standard than what you once accepted. What was taken is being addressed, not just materially, but reputationally, relationally, and spiritually, and it is happening with a thoroughness that leaves no loose ends. You are not merely recovering losses, you are being repositioned beyond where you would have stood without the resistance, because delay has created depth and pressure has forged authority. The narrative that once defined you through accusation is dissolving, replaced by recognition that travels faster than rumor ever did. People who misjudged you are reassessing, doors once slammed are reopening with intention, and what felt impossible is beginning to feel inevitable. Here's the key. Your life now serves as quiet evidence that divine order is real, that truth outlasts distortion, and that goodness, though tested, is never forgotten. You are moving forward not as someone who escaped harm, but as someone shaped by it, grounded, protected, and free to choose a future that reflects who you have always been becoming. There is another layer unfolding now, one that speaks less about what you survived and more about who you are becoming as a result of it, because endurance alone was never the end goal. You've spent years carrying quiet responsibility, holding yourself together when resources were thin, when support was inconsistent, when being kind felt like a liability rather than a strength. And still, you showed up with sincerity, even when no one seemed to notice. That unseen faithfulness mattered more than you knew. Let that land. In the unseen, those seasons were not wasted time but formative ground, shaping your capacity to steward what is approaching without losing yourself to it. What is activating in your life is not just relief from pressure, but a reorientation of purpose, a shift from reacting to circumstances into consciously inhabiting your place. There is a reason things did not arrive sooner, because arrival without readiness can fracture what was meant to flourish. In ancient accounts, those entrusted with greater responsibility were often led through obscurity first, not as punishment, but as preparation, learning to hear direction without noise and to trust provision before it became visible. You are stepping into that same rhythm now. The skills you developed while waiting, discernment, restraint, humility, resilience, are becoming the very tools that allow expansion without chaos. This next phase asks for presence more than effort. You are not being pushed to prove anything or to rush into motion. You are being invited to move deliberately, to let alignment set the pace rather than urgency. What once felt like being overlooked was protection from premature exposure. What felt like lack was training in stewardship. What felt like isolation was refinement of your inner compass. And now, as momentum begins to build, you'll notice that what comes toward you does so with less friction, fewer obstacles, and a sense of right timing that feels steady rather than overwhelming. Take this in. The growth ahead does not require you to abandon softness or integrity. In fact, those qualities are what anchor you now, preventing you from repeating old cycles even as new doors open. You are not returning to the world as someone desperate for validation, but as someone rooted, able to receive without grasping and to choose without fear. What is being established will last because it is built on truth rather than survival. And as this chapter continues to unfold, clarity will deepen, not all at once, but step by step, confirming that the waiting shaped you precisely for what you are now ready to carry. As this message settles, there is a gentle invitation forming, not to do more or become someone else, but to meet what is already unfolding with a little more presence than before. What has begun does not need to be earned or accelerated, and you are not behind if you don't feel a sudden surge of certainty. This is about allowing alignment to touch the ordinary rhythms of your days. You might notice it starting internally by loosening your grip on a thought that has quietly limited you, a familiar fear, an old definition of yourself that no longer fits, and letting it rest without needing to replace it immediately. In small moments, you may feel drawn to create space around you, opening a window, clearing a surface, rearranging a corner that has held stagnant energy, not as a ritual, but as a physical signal that you are making room. You may find yourself wanting to write a few honest words, not as a plan or demand, but as a way of acknowledging what your heart has been quietly preparing for, and then setting it aside without attachment. As you move through your days, stay attentive to patterns that repeat gently, the same idea returning, the same opportunity brushing past more than once, the same nudge to respond differently than you used to. When the moment arrives that asks for a simple yes, not a dramatic leap but a calm willingness, trust that readiness does not have to feel loud to be real. You are not being tested, measured, or rushed. There is no standard to meet and no performance required. This is about cooperation, not effort, about letting your outer life soften and adjust just enough to welcome what your inner life has already agreed to receive. If you do nothing else, allow yourself to move through the next days with a little more awareness, a little less self-judgment, and a quiet permission to be open. That alone is enough. What is meant to meet you knows how to find you when there is space, and space is something you can offer simply by being present, grounded, and willing to let today be slightly more open than yesterday. What you felt moving through these words was not imagined, and it was not accidental. The quiet recognition, the stillness, the sense that something was aligning inside you, those were real responses to something already in motion. What has been spoken here is not hovering in theory or waiting on permission. It has been acknowledged, set in order, and is continuing to unfold beyond what your eyes can yet confirm. You do not need to hold it tightly or try to manage its outcome. If you are still here at this moment, it is because some deeper part of you recognized that this message belonged in your life, not as information, but as confirmation. There is nothing more you need to prove and nothing you need to rush. A new cycle has already opened, one that will reveal itself gradually through clarity, timing, and a growing sense of rightness rather than force. As it is written, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion, not as pressure, but as promise." Let what has been set in motion continue without interference. Trust the pace, trust the unfolding, and as you step back into your life, carry this knowing gently, aware that this was not an ending, but a threshold you have already crossed. Let us enter this moment together in stillness, knowing we are held and safe. Eternal God, we come before you, not in fear or lack, but in recognition and trust, grateful for the quiet ways you have been guiding, guarding, and preparing long before clarity arrived. We thank you for the unseen work you have already completed, for the paths aligned in secret, for the protection that did not announce itself, and for the wisdom that formed in seasons when answers were sparse and resources felt thin. You saw the hearts that kept choosing goodness when it was costly, the faith that remained gentle under pressure, the obedience that took place without applause, and you counted every seed planted in silence. We honor you for being the God who goes before and stands behind, the one who restores what time and injustice tried to erode, and who brings peace not as escape, but as grounding. As your word reminds us, You are the one who watches over our coming and going, both now and forever, and we rest in that covering. We offer you this season of transition now, not asking you to hurry it, but asking for steady hearts, clear minds, and receptive spirits as it unfolds. Grant discernment that is calm, courage that is rooted, and a readiness that does not strive or compare. Where old fears still echo, replace them with quiet assurance. Where confusion once lingered, let understanding arrive gently. Where fatigue has lived, breathe renewal without force. We place into your care every outcome, every relationship, every resource, and every next step, trusting that you are faithful to complete what you have begun, just as you promised that when we pass through waters, you are with us, and when we walk through fire, we are not consumed. Seal what has been spoken, anchor what has been awakened, and let this life move forward in alignment with truth, peace, and love. We do not rush ahead of you, and we do not lag behind. We walk with you. Thank you for hearing what we could not fully say, for holding what we release, and for continuing this journey with us. And to everyone who has shared this prayer, know that you are not alone, that your steps are seen, and that grace is walking with you as you return gently to your day. Before you leave this space, I want to offer a gentle invitation, one that carries no pressure and no expectation. If you feel led, you're welcome to share in the comments whatever is resting on your heart right now. The hope you've been holding quietly, the pain you haven't known how to name, the questions, the fear, or even the prayer that feels unfinished. You don't need polished words. You don't need to explain yourself. What matters is honesty. God sees what is written in sincerity, even when it feels small or uncertain, and no prayer offered from a true heart is ever overlooked. When you write, you are not speaking into emptiness. You are allowing light to touch what has been carried in silence, and you are reminding your own spirit that it does not walk alone. Let this be a safe place to exhale, to be seen without being judged, and to trust that love meets you exactly where you are. Write only what you feel ready to release, and then rest, knowing you are held.